So moving on to the IRS has actually had some encounters with Copeland's church. Actually, no, that's not true. Here we kind of go over how is all of his earnings tax exempt. What do we know about the money he makes, and et cetera, et cetera. So he is technically, obviously, designated as a church, which means that it's a nonprofit organization, and you're given broad exemptions over taxation and regulations. Okay. I mean, we all know that. It's America, separation, yada, yada. So that's meaning that his church, KCM, is a nonprofit. Copeland can take millions from his followers, and he doesn't have to account for the money they receive at all. That means that Copeland is not legally obligated to disclose how much money he ends up in his pocket. He doesn't have to show or explain anything.
Doesn't he have to disclose?
They don't have to explain a single fucking thing.
Huh. You would think that you would have, because it's a nonprofit, so it's actually...
Well, it's a church, too. Right. It's more than a nonprofit. It's a super nonprofit. Mm-hmm. It's a super nonprofit for profit. KCM is also listed as a church, which means they follow the same tax guidelines and regulations that small town churches follow. It doesn't make sense that this church here, you know what I mean, would have to follow the same tax guidelines as this one here. It's just a different scale entirely. But there you go.
Right, because the purpose of these exemptions are for these, small churches who can't afford to provide basic things within the church.
Yeah.
And I think the idea too is that you use the money for social services and taking care of people and all this, but as you'll find out, well, I'll talk about that later, but his whole mansion estate is also exempt from property tax.
What?
This motherfucker doesn't even have to pay property tax because technically his house is listed as a parsonage. A parsonage is a tax issue. Let's see. The parsonage exclusion has two aspects. If a church provides a house for a minister of the gospel to live in, the fair market value of in-kind housing is exempt. And then also the second part is cash housing allowances paid in lieu of in-kind housing are also exempt from income tax. There is no dollar limit from any of these. Tax-free housing allowances to televangelists and megachurch pastors can and do run in the hundreds of thousands per month. Crazy, right? There's no there's no limit. Okay, now this is great. Ministry Watch is an independent evangelical organization that rates the financial accountability of different churches. KCM, Kenneth's church, received an F.
Okay.
Ministry Watch...
What does anyone do about that?
Well, they're just trying to inform people. But Ministry Watch explains. Ministry Watch profiles public charities, churches, and parachurch ministries. Ministry Watch is yada, yada, yada. They said... this is about. Okay, yeah. So here's what they said about him. Kenneth Copeland Ministries has chosen not to be open and transparent with Ministry Watch. As such, it is difficult to understand all aspects of its ministry. Prudent donors want to understand what it is they are going to support. Some ministries claim they have no legal obligation to share financial or other information, but they do have a moral obligation to do so. Christians should have nothing to fear by being open. All will be judged at a future date. And with this thought in mind, how are we to conduct ourselves before God today? Organizations described as Christian ministers are at least giving people an image of God. Is God characterized as closed, impartial, and hidden, or open, personable, and knowledgeable? Scripture enjoins Christians to conduct themselves honestly. So they're using they're basically using the Bible to slam dunk on him.
First card.
Victory, victory.
So here we brought some receipts from the Bible. Because they argue, they have this whole idea of, prosperity. Mm-hmm. He even said Jesus would be wearing a Rolex. They just haven't been invented yet. Which, by the way, how could you fucking claim that? The dude cruised around in didn't he famously just cruise around in loincloth and shit? You know what I mean? They had nice clothes back then. You think that the emperor just cruised around the same fucking blinkered as everybody else. He had like pimp ass jewelry and shit. You know. So
I mean, I've always heard from my mom, who grew up very like religious, that it's a lot about like modesty and being humble.
Of course, that was what Jesus was all about.
So I was gonna say, I don't know if it's any different because obviously we're in Israel studying the Jewish way, but I feel like it would be the same.
Yeah, I mean, so let me read you some verses from the Bible, because Jesus was not about rich people. Jesus did not like rich people. He said, here, treasures gained by wickedness do not profit, but righteousness delivers from death. You shall not steal. Well, obviously don't steal. You're claiming he's stealing stuff, AB? He's just stealing money from people?
Yeah.
Here's another one. For the love of money is the root of all kinds of evil. It is through this craving that some have wandered away from faith and pierced themselves with many pangs.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds more like stuff that I know.
Jesus said, if you want to be perfect, go, sell your possessions and give it to the poor. You will have the treasures in heaven. Then come follow me. Kenneth, you reading this shit?
I mean, that makes sense to me. Like, if you want to teach about giving and donations, then like go give it to a poor person.
Exactly. Well, Jesus' whole life was about sacrificing everything, right? That's the story of Jesus. I sacrifice everything for you, including my own life.
It's just like such a loophole that it all ends up going to one person.
With no transparency at all.
Yeah.
Jesus said to his disciples, truly I tell you, it is hard for someone who is rich to enter the kingdom of heaven. Again, I tell you, it is easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than someone who is rich to enter the kingdom of God. Kenneth is like, man, fuck that guy. Ignore that line.
Wasn't the chalice of the carpenter not gold? Wasn't it just plain?
Good point, Zach. And I wonder if he's seen Indiana Jones as well. That's a good point, though. Jesus points out that money and God are rivaling masters. If you love money, you will despise God. He says you cannot serve both God and money.
Who put these together, AB?
That was AB, yeah.
Nice.
Exactly. It's like, slam dunk, bitch. Your shit's fucking phony. Jesus hates your ass.
Right. My grandfather was actually a pastor on my mom's side.
Oh, really?
Oh.
Yeah.
You got all kinds of flavors of God in you.
Yeah.
So what would they think about someone like Copeland?
Oh, yeah, they would definitely, they think it's the worst.
Yeah, I can't imagine what my mom would think, too.
I would assume that anyone or most people who follow traditional religion would think he's just a con man. I mean, he's really not.
Yeah, we should make it clear that this is not all Christians by any means. This is a very specific kind of thread of evangelicalism in America, that this whole prosperity gospel thing. This is,
it's really it's
not
just
in America. He's
well, he's
worldwide.
global. You're right. He's
in Africa, bro.
Ukraine,
that's why I was
Canada.
sure to add the Ministry Watch, because that's a Christian organization. Talking bad about them.
They're even slam dunking on him.
He's just a con man. I don't even think he's religious.
I just can't believe that it's resonating with so many people. Then
it's like any cult.
Yeah,
they just want to believe.
I mean, you've got a couple excerpts there, but I think you might have forgotten one. The "Thou shalt get this bread."
Are you sure they're not just talking about bread?
Is that King James?
Yeah,
I think it is.
I thought it was Saint Kanye.
I think it's actually it's from the book of Get a Joke.
Wow, Ian.
Oh,
thank you. Wow, Ian.
Wow, I would buy that lesson from Ian.
That was good. What version of the Bible is that?
I'm not sure which one that is. I don't know.
You should sell some CDs, Ian.
Yeah, $25.99.
And how much for the study notes?
Well, that's going to be $26.99.
Ooh, it's worth it. It's worth it. Yeah. And he found out this perfect little loophole, because it's like, okay, how do I do the best con? I do a con that's a religion, and then I don't even have to pay taxes.
Yeah.
That's what Scientology did, too. It's awesome.
I would love to see like a full-on documentary of someone trying to expose this. Like,
I'd fund it.
Like they did with Nixium and the guy.
I would fund the shit out of this. If any documentaries out there, hit me up. I'll fund it. How much does it cost to fund an independent documentary?
A lot.
Well, let's talk. I think I can get you there. I can get you close.
We'll give you a shout out.
No, come on. I want to fund it. I want to fund it. We can figure it out. This is the beginning of a big, beautiful new vertical for us. So Copeland receives huge amounts of cash donations by believers in the mail, along with the written prayer requests, which don't get seen by Copeland. Okay, so former employees have spoken out against Copeland. Here is one such example.
From former employees who tell News 8, shout amen, somebody! The Kenneth and Gloria Copeland you see on TV,
Glory to God,
are not the Kenneth and Gloria of real life.
We were treated like galley slaves.
Oh.
In my eyes, there's deception.
There's a fear mentality placed on people that work there.
Just 3 former Copeland ministry employees speaking out about the disappointment of discovering what really goes on inside.
I started going to church there in 1994.
Among them, Jeff Spradlin, who says he grew up admiring the Copelands and was excited to get a job working for them.
Within 90 days, I started realizing this was a huge mistake.
For nearly 2 years, Spradlin worked in the mail processing center where prayer request envelopes stuffed with cash would arrive every morning. He says a group of ministers, not the Copelands, would pray over the unopened envelopes. But Spradlin says he and other mail processors were the only ones who actually read the requests.
And I was sitting there getting this.
So nobody even read the fucking prayers. They just took the money and basically threw that shit out.
And going, Kenneth and Gloria don't see a word of this.
How many of these prayer requests, to your knowledge, do Kenneth and Gloria Copeland see and or pray over?
None that I know of.
This former employee also processed prayer requests and sent return letters crafted to give the look of a personal response.
Oh my God. They wrote it as Ken? That's so
wow.
You know what's interesting is all this exposed stuff is really old. So I think a new one could be so powerful.
So HBO, please.
I feel like this is even more interesting than NXIVM. I guess they like the whole sexual weird stuff, but he's so evil.
Yeah. But at the end, what really gets them is the tax fraud and the...
Right, because NXIVM you can't really even claim religious. These guys have so much shielding. So here, if you go to Glassdoor and Indeed and where all these people can leave reviews, so these are past employees who have left reviews about working for the minister.
Oh.
The pro is, I got to learn about church. The con is, it's a ministry you work full-time and get told... They tell you that KCM is not your source when you ask for a raise. No fucking way. I bet you they expect these people who they pay to give the money back to them.
Oh my God. Wow.
Here's another one. Leadership dysfunction. Overall, the leadership of KCM is oblivious to the damage they inflict on the staff daily. No accountability from the top down. Ministry family priorities always come first, and personality-based organization is impossible to execute best business practices in any way. High stress, low market pay, impossible workload.
Wow.
KCM is a great place to work for those used to doing what is told to them and not having ideas to save money. Con is you get fired if you see it as just a job. It has to be a calling, so you will put up and shut up. I worked at KCM for years. During my time there, I learned the following. It may be a Christian workplace, but keep your head down. There's absolutely no loyalty to the employees, no matter how long you have served, as they put it. Scandals get squashed. Unless you are a minion, then you get to move on to the next phase of your ministry. Fired. I was released because I exercised my free right to drink a beer at my home. Not at work, off the clock, and someone turned me in.
What?
It is sad to see the cult that KCM is becoming. It used to be a highly respected ministry doing great things. If you are career-minded, if you are looking for longevity in a job, keep looking. The more money you make, the more you are overhead to the overall financial plan. Dead end. Turn back. Don't say, I didn't warn you.
Wow.
All you have to do is look at the emblem the church uses at Eagle Mountain International Church. It sums it up. It's a big bird puking into the mouth of a little bird, and the little bird better swallow.
Amen.
Yeah.
That's crazy. So they don't reward anyone who's been with them because they want to keep low salaries.
Well, everyone who runs it's in the family. You know what I mean? So everyone else is expendable. So the Senate in 2017 actually did a huge investigation into his organization.
2007. Yeah.
2007, what did I say? So a senator, Chuck Grassley, and a financial... What? Chuck Grassley. Grass. The grass is always greener, Lee. Chuck Grassley and a finance committee investigated the megachurch. The investigation looked into the use of church-owned airplanes, homes, and credit cards by pastors. The lack of financial oversight from the ministry board was also looked into. It was discovered that the majority of KCM's board is Copeland's family members and friends.
All things are possible with God.
Including his wife, his son-in-law, sister-in-law. So they noted that KCM did not agree to cooperate with the committee, but the committee still filed its report based on public records and third parties. In the report, several former employees of KCM indicated that KCM used intimidation in an attempt to keep informants from talking to the committee.
There's probably a lot of dirt going.
Oh, my God. They said it's clear that KCM did not intend to cooperate with the committee's request and provided the missing responses. As a result, committee staff attempted to secure the requested information from public records and third parties. In this process, staff learned that KCM used strong tactics to prevent former employees from speaking about the organization, even to committee staff. Several former employees indicated that they used intimidation in an attempt to keep informants from speaking. Former employees were sincerely afraid to provide statements for fear of being sued since they signed confidentiality agreements. Employees were contacted by KCM attorneys after the initiation of the committee investigation and reminded that they signed a confidentiality agreement agreeing not to disclose any information. One former employee stated the following: the Copeland employee guerrilla tactics to keep their employees silent. We are flat out told and threatened that if we talk, God will blight our finances, strike our families down, and pretty much afflict us with everything evil and unholy. Rather, God will allow Satan to do those things to us because we have stepped out from under his umbrella of protection.
Wow.
By touching God's anointed prophet. Further, employees are encouraged to shun and treat badly anyone who dares to speak out. That's fucked. You like that?
Typical cult behavior.
100% cult behavior. It's literally just using the Christianity as a cover, but it's the same exact thing that Scientology does, pretty much. So more from the Senate investigation. They investigated the use of ministry jets. Apparently, they have 5 aircrafts in connection with its tax-exempt religious purpose. You like that?
Love it.
A former minister stated that Gloria Copeland used a jet to fly to Naples, Florida to go shopping. She would purchase clothing, sculptures, and home furnishing. John Copeland, a ministry employee, and some others used a jet to go on hunting trips.
We love it.
Kenneth Copeland used to travel back and forth to Arkansas to see a chiropractor.
Love it.
The Copeland family also flew to Colorado to visit their home in Steamboat Springs from time to time. That doesn't sound like ministry purposes.
As Trisha would say, they sound very bougie.
Yeah, that's bougie. That is bougie. Let's take the private plane down to the chiropractor in Colorado. He's my fave.
Oh, my God.
An insider states that Copeland no longer receives a salary. Strike that. Gloria Copeland's last known salary was $400,000, and that was in the early 2000s. Kenneth and Gloria both receive honorariums, which they go to speak at churches, conventions, and crusades that are not crusades. That doesn't sound good. The normal amount received by each is $10,000, and they at times will also receive a percentage of the offering collected by sponsoring church or ministry. They get a percentage of. Crazy.
On the crusade, that's when they talk shit about everyone that complains.
Right. That's our crusade. There's a whole lot, but these guys are sketchy as fuck.